Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove, and this is Speedplay Touggourt number 14. So we left off just finishing the war with Spain. We have to move all of our forces away. We're going to build a few extra transports to get our fleets up to 20 transports each, so I just prefer that number. We have a bit of a rebellion going on in Southeast Asia that we'll have to go send troops over to deal with. We're going to colonize a bit into South America, and we apparently had 15,000 men just doing nothing there. We're going to get two groups of men together before we attack the rebels. Unfortunately, they do finish their sieges, but since we're no longer at war, we will be able to deal with this. We go ahead and get these men from South America and bring them over to North Africa. And we go ahead and attack the rebels. You may have noticed a few pop-ups saying that a few countries have left the coalition against us. While good news, that does mean that they had joined it. So we're going to try to keep all of our forces a little close to Europe, as we do now have European holdings we need to defend. And quite frankly, I don't want a repeat of the last Spanish invasion, where they did take over a decent portion of our mainland before we were able to actually stop them, and even then we weren't really able to stop them, we were just lucky. So, since I do still want to expand, what we're going to do is press into Africa. We do get another revolt, but we have troops nearby, so we can deal with that pretty quickly. Now we'll go ahead and just merge two armies together and deal with that. And now with armies on all of the borders, we go ahead and declare war first on Yao in Central Africa. And we just go ahead and attack. And the battle goes significantly better than our last little intervention into Sub-Saharan Africa, which is always great news. So we go ahead and declare a second war simultaneously. And with Yao's army mainly destroyed, we go ahead and split our forces up to carpet siege. Timbuktu has a significantly larger force, which does come up to meet us, and unfortunately we do lose the initial battle. However, I'm not going to let that slow us down. We go ahead and declare a third war, and we'll go ahead and buy a few diplomatic buildings, as we are at the top of the limit. We go ahead and launch a second attack. We do completely destroy the East African army, so we go ahead and split this force up to carpet siege. Our second attack into Timbuktu is successful, although we did lose quite a few men in the process. We go ahead to chase down their army, and we get a significant revolt in southern Italy, but we build two new armies to go ahead and deal with, and we moved 21,000 men from Southeast Asia. And at this point, the wars are going fairly well. We did win the battle with very few men against Timbuktu, and that is just getting smaller as time goes on. We do get stack wiped, although it was only a very small stack, so we go ahead and send our forces over to defeat this force. And it works very well. We go ahead and move our forces forward. Poland joined the coalition against us, which is a bit of a concern, and kind of a curiosity. It's odd that they didn't do that earlier if they were upset. And one of the rebel groups is successful. We attack. We were hoping it would be before the other group was successful, but it wasn't. On the bright side, though, we have enough men. We can just go ahead and attack the next rebellion. And we've nearly finished the war in East Africa. We do lose another battle in West Africa. However, it's a better position than it was. We go ahead and move a few extra troops over, though. And we've nearly won the war in the east. We've completely defeated Yao. We just have to wait for the sieges to complete. And at this rate, we are nearly there. We have had a bit of difficulty against Timbuktu, which I wasn't hoping for. And we're back at the diplomatic point limit, so we go ahead and build more buildings. At this rate, it looks like Timbuktu's army is defeating Songhai, or at least invading them. So we're going to try to keep our forces at least relatively together so they don't get defeated. And their force was just destroyed and forced back, so they'll probably ram into us. We try to get our forces ready. Unfortunately, we get stack wiped. And we do manage to win the battle, though, which is great news. We go ahead and move our army back. And we give all of these provinces to the control of our ally Funge, our ally and vassal Funge, that is. and we'll go ahead and give them as much land as we can. Unfortunately, we do select one of our units, which undoes the entire peace deal process, but there we go. And since a decent portion of those are their cores, they won't have to worry about overextension nearly as much as we would have. And we go ahead and build a few extra diplomatic buildings. And just continue to convert heretics and siege out Timbuktu. Now, unfortunately, their army does come in and stack wipe us one time and send one army back. However, it does look that their army is nearly defeated now. At this point, I'm a little upset by how much of a fight Timbuktu has put up. I wasn't expecting that, and there is a rebellion in the east, which is going to be a little significant, but we do have forces nearby. We go ahead and just annex Yao and begin coring 2 of the provinces. Now, what we're going to do is create a couple client kingdoms, and that can only be done in peacetime, which is why I hadn't quite made peace with Yao until just now. And we're nearly done with the war against Timbuktu. We have 2 sieges, over 56%. There is a rebellion in Venice, which we'll have to deal with. Luckily, we have significant forces in Italy already, so we just merge our fleets together and attack. And we've been getting a few nice events, which have been giving us quite a bit of gold. And we go ahead, annex Timbuktu, and we make a couple new client kingdoms. We're only able to make these in Africa or somewhere directly connected to our capital. So if we're going to make any client states at all this game, it's pretty much going to have to be in Sub-Saharan Africa. Although this really will speed up our later conquest of the region. So it's definitely for the best that we're doing this. And we're going to go ahead and give it a flag similar vaguely to our own, and give them all the provinces except for one that we just took. We'll also make a new one over here in the east of Sub-Saharan Africa. We're going to have it similar with a flag out of the same design, more or less, as I do kind of like just having them have a similar flag to ourselves. And we'll just make sure that neither of them has more than 100% overextension, which they shouldn't. Unfortunately, we did end up getting a protectorate, but that isn't actually too much of an issue. It'll just cost 1 stability to get rid of them at some later point. Or we could keep them until they westernize. It really doesn't matter at the moment. It'll just come up once we actually expand to them. Meanwhile, though, we are in a good spot. We just have to wait for them to core all their provinces, and we can go ahead and connect. Austria declares war on us, though. It appears they had rejoined the coalition. Ethiopia appears to be at war with us, too. We try to get our forces out of Venice, the goal being that the Austrians may try to seize the area, and they'll leave their army there, and we'll be able to just block it in. It doesn't quite work, however, and their armies just go straight to the Ottoman Empire. We begin pulling our forces out of Africa in order to deal with this threat. We build 2 new army groups. And at this point, it's going to just mainly be an issue of getting our forces up to the Ottomans and just supplementing their war effort, as well as defeating all the forces in Ethiopia, which are mainly just rebellions. And in the ideal world, we'll be able to defend them. The British do land in North Africa, but with a small enough force, we can hopefully deal with them. We go ahead and send our navy over to smash theirs, and the Ottomans do help, which is very nice. And we do win the initial battle on land and sea. Our forces are continuing to press through Ethiopia, and we stack wipe the British force, as well as begin splitting our forces up across Ethiopia. We do move and get our leader out of there so we can put them in one of our European stacks and attempt to use that against the Austrians in Europe. So that front of the war is just completely settled already. We go ahead and move our forces up. There's a rather limited amount of Austrian force available, and it appears that that's because there's a massive battle up north in Poland. We send our forces as quickly as we can, and unfortunately we do not get there in time. We retreat and just destroy any Austrian stack on the way back. I go ahead and take a quick look at the simplified terrain map mode and move our forces over to the mountains, as there is a very significant enemy force on its way. We then move back a little bit and try to just defend our allied stacks as the enemy force has split up a little bit, so we are able to hopefully deal with it. There is another large battle going on in the Eastern Balkans, so we do send our forces over to that. And we go ahead and hopefully we'll be able to intervene in time. We do get there, however they do have significant reinforcements that they are drawing over. We bring our transports and we just pull out of that battle as they are going to win it. Luckily, our new client kingdoms are beginning to make troops, which will come flood over to the front, and we begin pulling our armies out of Ethiopia to maybe support our forces, although at this point there is just a bit of an onslaught going on in the Balkans. We move our forces into southern Greece, where we'll be able to quickly bring reinforcements by sea. Our colonial nations in North America are not doing very well. So what we're really going to do right now, probably go ahead and move our forces over so we can get some blockade bonuses. We do attack a few of their straggling armies, and we can bring enough forces to bear compared to theirs that it isn't very much difficulty. We do stack wipe one of their forces and bring reinforcements to stack wipe another. So we are turning this around. It is not ideal, as a lot of the land being occupied is our allies. Spain joined a coalition, so hopefully that doesn't declare war while this is going on. However, the amount of enemy troops has really declined in Europe. That's in a large part because they just went around and are invading Anatolia right now. So since they are invading Anatolia and have very few forces in Europe, we're going to go ahead and be a little more aggressive. And we do actually take some pretty intense losses in this battle. However, we do outnumber them 2-1, so we do win it. And we're going to just fall back and let our armies reinforce. We do move to destroy Ethiopian rebellion. And we are attacked, but we bring forces over to reinforce, and we win that battle. At this point, all of these armies should be 40,000 men. The fact that they are nowhere near that means we have taken significant casualties so far. And that is just not ideal. We are, however, you can see there the massive enemy forces in Anatolia. We move our forces forward in order to hopefully make some sort of gains against them as they're going that far into the Ottomans. We reinforce this army as it has been attacked, and all of our armies in Europe are now currently reinforcing. We do win that battle, and we move forward to hopefully stack wipe this Austrian force. And we end up just destroying a few small armies on the way. They did end up in Vienna, where we do win a battle, and we hopefully can chase them down once more and destroy them. However, they do end up going north, and I don't want to follow them that deep into their countryside, as that is just a great way to get our own forces stack wiped. So we move back to Venice in order to reinforce, and we move more of our forces up from North Africa. However, at this point, we're going to have to continue this next time. So in the next one, we will hopefully win this war, defeat the coalition, and at that point, we will be in a fairly good spot. There isn't very much that we can get from Austria. However, we really don't want to lose this war or lose the Ottomans as an ally. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.